Okay, it looks like participants are starting to slow down. Other logistical things to remember, you will be emailed a recording of this webinar, so do not feel like you need to memorize everything that I'm saying tonight. It is just me on tonight's webinar, so please feel free to ask questions throughout tonight's presentation. I'll do my best. I only have one screen, so I'll do my best to pull up some of those questions, but if I don't get to them when you ask them, I did carve out time at the end of tonight's presentation to go through questions live. Great, so let's get started. Before we jump into tonight's agenda, I do just want to introduce myself. So my name's Emily. I'm the head of student athlete success over here at SportsRecruits. So I help run our customer success team. I work with our B2C team, and then I also work with our recruiting guidance team, which is a team of analysts who works with student athletes throughout their recruiting process and providing them guidance, suggestions, and really any content to help them take the right steps with where they are in their process. A little bit about my recruiting process. I was strictly looking Division III, where I ended up playing basketball at a small liberal arts school called Franklin and Marshall College. During my time there, I worked in the athletic department. I worked with various different teams, and I was also the assistant, to the associate athletic director. I've been at SportsRecruits for about 5 years now. Target list of schools. Building your target list of schools is so important. And it's a component of the recruiting process that you're always going to be looking at, right? Whether you're starting it, you're in the middle, or you're at the tail end, you should always be evaluating that list. It's okay to change things around. And there's a lot of things that you need to think about when you're building out that list. And I'll get into that in a lot more detail on the next slide. But again, this is such an important part of your recruiting process. So a really great topic for us to discuss tonight. So really the three big things we are going to be discussing is first, how do you determine the right college fit? What are some of the things that you need to be looking at when you're analyzing a school, when you're analyzing a program? Then we're going to talk about how to use the SportsRecruits school search tool, how you can keep things organized, how to favorite schools. And I'm going to talk about how college coaches interact with that favorite mechanism as well. And then we're going to talk about how to analyze where you stand throughout your entire recruiting process. When you're starting, when you're in the middle, and when you're at the end, you should always be analyzing your list and seeing where you stand with those schools. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we will end tonight's presentation with a Q&A. Please feel free to ask questions throughout. Like I said, I'll do my best to try to answer, but if not, we have time at the end. Great, so determining the right fit. So here at SportsRecruits, we always say, choosing the program or choosing, college or university you're going to attend isn't just the next 4-year decision, but it's the next 40-year. Not to put a lot of pressure on that, but there's a lot of things that you should be thinking about when you are choosing a school. So to determine if the school is the right fit for you, we like to break it down into 5 different categories that you should be considering. It's not advantageous to just hone in on one of these categories, right? It's not just about the athletic fit. It's about so much more to make sure that you're having a holistic experience while you're at college. So, we have the academic fit, the athletic fit, the geographic fit, the social fit, and finally the financial fit. Now, when you're really at the tail end of your recruiting process, if you can check 4 out of 5 of these, you've probably found the right fit for you. Now, let's just talk about questions that you should be asking yourself to make sure that these schools are the right fit with these categories. So first, is the school the right academic fit for you? Now, does it have the majors that you want to study? Now, probably sitting here and you're like, Emily, I'm a freshman in high school. I don't know what major I want to study. And that is totally fine. I was in the same boat. That's really why I went to a liberal arts college, because you do need to take a lot more prerequisite courses to then figure out what your major is. But, I encourage you to just browse the majors that they have. Are there certain classes that get you excited? Are there certain tracks or certain internships that they have there that get you excited? To then really figure out like, okay, there's a bunch of different avenues that I can see myself studying at this school. It would be the right academic fit for me. Another question to ask yourself academically, do I want to go to a school where, it's small classes, right? Like I went to Franklin and Marshall College. I had one class where it was me and 4 other people. Or am I okay going to a class that's 400 people in a large auditorium? Like what works best for you? That's another question to ask yourself when you're thinking of academics. Athletic questions, it's more than just what level you want to play at, right? We have Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO. Other, deeper questions to ask yourself is, do I want to play at a school where I'm gonna probably not play until my junior or senior year, but I may be playing at a national championship? Or do I want to play at a school where I know I'm going to be on the court freshman year and I'm going to make a difference? I'm going to get that playing time. Asking yourself those questions with coinciding with division. And while you are building out your list, it is very important looking at that athletic fit, that you're having a good amount of reach, fit, and safeties athletically, because you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket for a lot of reach schools athletically. And then God forbid it doesn't work out, you have to start from square one. Now, the geographic fit questions, ask yourself, climate. Do I want to be somewhere where it's warm all the time, it's cold, or it has 4 seasons? Am I okay getting on a plane and going across the country to go to school? Or do I want to be home for, friends, family to be able to come see my games or matches? Socially, asking yourself, do I want to go to a large school where there's a lot of clubs? Maybe there's fraternities, sororities, Greek life's important. Do I want to study abroad? Is that a possibility to study abroad with playing a sport at the same time? Definitely some questions to consider with that social fit. And then finally, the financial fit. Every family has, this is going to be different for every family. And it's usually something that you start to tackle towards the end of your recruiting process, discussing with coaches if there's any athletic scholarships, if there's financial aid, there's FAFSA. So definitely not something to be thinking about right when you start building that list, but towards the middle or the end. So again, these are the 5 categories that I definitely encourage you to be thinking about when you're going through the SportsRecruits search tool. Do these schools do these categories fit for the schools that are on my list? You do not want to hone in to just one of these categories and be fixated on that, especially the athletic, right? There's something that we talk about called the broken leg test. God forbid, if something were to happen and you were to have an injury where you couldn't play that season, would you still be happy there? And the answer should be yes, because again, you're looking at these schools holistically and not just that athletic fit. So we talked about the different categories that you should be thinking about and how you should be, favoriting these schools. Now, we always say to cast a wide net, both academically and athletically. So again, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket with a ton of reach schools, like 10 of the top Division I schools. God forbid it doesn't work out, you have to start over. So when you're going through the process and you're really first starting out and building that target list, we tell student athletes to favorite anywhere from 20 to 30 schools. So this graph really kind of paints that picture for us. The more reps you put in, the more coaches you reach out to, the more you're casting that wide net, the more activity you're going to be seeing on your profile. So anywhere from 20 to 30 schools it needs to be manageable. Don't favorite like 70 schools unless you can, keep track of those schools, be able to reach out to them, be able to update them constantly through your process. But we say anywhere from 20, 30, and just really stressing on having a good amount of reach, fit, and safety schools, both academically and athletically. And I'll talk about that a little more on how you can figure that out. What is a reach? What is a fit? And what is a safety? So I did just want to talk about, so this tool, the school search tool, if you're a free user, if you're a pro user, everyone has access to it. You don't need to pay to have access to this tool, which is really great. We kind of split it into those categories I was talking about. We have location, academics, major, and athletics. And you're able to get really specific to really find schools that fit the criteria that's important to you. Now, keep in mind, let's just say, for example, this user is a women's volleyball player. Only schools that have a women's volleyball program will appear in this search feature. If a school doesn't have a women's volleyball program, it wouldn't even appear here. Now, it's really important to be layering those different things that are important to you, right? Do I want to be close from home? Is there a certain major that I'm interested in? Is the size of the school important? You can put as many filters as you want. You press search and it's going to populate schools that fit that criteria. Now, every school has their own landing page as well. So let's say you want to learn more about a school. You simply click on that link and it's going to take you to their landing page where we show you a section of committed athletes who have committed to that school using SportsRecruits across all sports, information about that specific program, cost, majors, just it looks similar to what your profile looks like, just fast facts that you would want to learn about that school. Now, once you have gone through, you favorited some schools, you can head over to the school section. Now, this is really powerful, this list, and using these rank categories and last contact. So first, a question we get a ton is, Emily, can a college coach see this full list? For instance, does MIT know that I also favorited GW? They do not. This list is just for you and for the student athlete, the parents, the guardians, or the coaches that have access to your profile. However, a college coach does know when you favorite their program. So there's a student athlete side of SportsRecruits, which we're seeing here, but there's also a college coach side of the platform as well. College coaches can log on to their SportsRecruits account and sift through student athletes based on certain criteria: GPA, position, grade, do they have video? And another filter that they can search for is who has favorited my program. So definitely, again, encourage you to use that search tool, favorite those schools, and use this organizational tool. You can rank them in a specific order. You can categorize them into that fit, reach, or safety I mentioned. And then you can also look at it by last contact. So last contact is pretty powerful. I always, when I worked with families one-on-one through their recruiting process, would get the question, how frequently should I be messaging a school? Should it be once a month, every other week? And unfortunately, there is no magic answer for how, time-wise, you should be reaching out. But I always tell student athletes, if you have an update, whether it's new video, new academic information, you have an event coming up, you're visiting their school, or you're introducing them yourself, you should be reaching out to that college coach. If it happens to be a week apart when one of those things happen, so be it. As long as you have a reason to reach out, you should be sending a message. I have spoken to college coaches though, and I've asked them that question, and similar to what they said to me, there's no magic number, but if they don't hear from a student athlete in 4 or 5 months since that initial introduction message, they're going to assume that student athlete has lost interest. So that's something to think about. Keep that in the back of your mind. You should always have an update for a college coach every 4 or 5 months. Maximum. It should be much closer when you're reaching out. Okay. So what are some things to think about analyzing where you stand and tracking your progress? So there's a lot of places where you can track your progress on SportsRecruits. So in the schools section, that little arrow, you click that and you can see your milestones with a specific school, and then you can see activity overview. So how many messages you've sent to that specific program, how many messages you've received from that program, and then how many views that you've had over profile, video, and document. Those milestones, once you send that initial message, that'll check itself off automatically. If you're a club user, you can request help from, a staff that's on SportsRecruits. If you receive a view, that'll automatically check off. And then those last three are something that you need to manually check off once you do those things. This is a really great tool, again, just to stay organized and have everything in one place. That's what's so great about the platform, that things don't need to be scattered. It can all be there. You have your video, your messages, what you're doing with specific school, everything is right on the SportsRecruits platform, instead of having a bunch of different tabs and a bunch of different Google Docs. Excuse me, this makes it a lot easier. Also, if you want to see your activity at the top, I forgot to add this picture and I apologize, but that activity button up there, you can click that and you can see your overall activity across all of the schools on your list. Within this tab, it's just a specific activity with those programs. Oh, someone said, can you please say again, where is the tab? So this is the schools tab at the top right. And then to get to this milestone section, it's that little caret in this video, like you click that and it drops down for you to be able to see this milestone view. Great. So this picture that I have over here to the right, this is what I was referencing before. The landing page looks like for specific schools. I took this from a women's lacrosse program page. So this is what it looks like. You scroll down, there's even more facts about the school that you're able to see. So yeah, that's what it looks like. That's their landing pages. But do want to talk about how to analyze your list and what you should be considering. So I've said this a million times, but reach, fit, or safety. And I guess I haven't really given a definition of what those mean. So what is a reach? A reach is, academically, your GPA is just not there for what admitted students have had in the past, or maybe, your test scores aren't quite there, or athletically, you've watched video of people who have committed there in the past and it just hasn't lined up. You've talked to your club coach and they've said to you, that it's just it's a reach. It would be tough to play there. It doesn't mean that you won't be admitted, you can't play for that team, but that's just how it's categorized. A fit is, your grades pretty much line up with who they admitted in the past. Your level of play is pretty on par for the current student athletes there. People have committed in the past, and you've talked to your coach, your trainer, and they've said, yeah, you are on the right track. You would be a good fit for that program. A safety is your grades are way above what student athletes who have been admitted in the past have had. Your test scores are way above those admitted scores, and your level of play is just way better than those who have, started there in the past. To figure out where you align with your list, I definitely encourage you, if you play for a club team, or you, maybe you don't play for club, you have a personal trainer, or you play for a high school program, showing them your list for them to walk you through what's a fit, what's a reach, and what's a safety athletically, right? And then having that conversation can really go a long way. Maybe that coach knows someone at that program and they can reach out for you, and make that introduction and see if they're looking for your position. And also too, it puts on their mind, like, hey, Emily's pretty serious about playing at the next level. Like, let me work with her. Let me show her what she should be doing. We should look at video together. So I definitely encourage you, if you haven't had that conversation with an athletic advocate, to do that and show them your list. Athletically, talking to a teacher, a guidance counselor, maybe you have a college guidance counselor, and showing them their list. Some schools have like a database where they can see, I forget what I used in the past, what the name was, it'll come to me, but where they can see people at your school who have applied and what their grades were and things like that. So definitely, once you do have that list, share it with an academic advocate as well. Another thing to think about is, and I was talking to a colleague about this recently, is popularity of the school. So if you are really interested in those top Division I, Division II, Division III schools, some things to consider are, it may take 4 or 5 emails to get that college coach's attention. Some of those top programs are receiving, especially over the summer with all the events happening, hundreds of emails a day. So something to consider when you're building your list, you don't want all of the popular schools from every division, because that'll ultimately end up being a lot of reaches for you. Again, you can have them on your list, but it's going to be a little harder because of the competition and because of how many student athletes are reaching out to them, which may be harder to grab their attention. So definitely think about that when you're building out your list. You don't want it to be super, super heavy with very, very popular schools. Be honest with yourself. And I kind of already went through this, but get that second opinion, from those athletic or academic advocates. And then finally, don't be afraid to reassess and rebuild your list. Your likes and dislikes in those categories we talked about before are going to change, Like, a school that starts on your list in the beginning doesn't need to be there at the end. You can take them off, add them back. It's a very fluid process. So again, don't be afraid to readjust that, rebuild, and cast that wide net. Have that 20 to 30 schools to make sure you're having a good amount of reach, fit, and safety, both academically and athletically. I really can't stress that enough. Cool. We are getting questions coming in. I just need to take a quick water break. That was a lot of talking there. So let me pull up some questions here. Okay. Do you need to tag your profile with the fit, reach, and safety and not leave uncategorized? It's totally up to you. It's not a requirement when you are building out your list. I just encourage you to do that, so then you're able to know that you have that good amount of reach, fit, and safety, and you're able to organize that. Okay. This is a good question. Do college coaches tend to reach out after a few emails if they feel like you are not what they are looking for? There could be 1,000,001 reasons why a college coach doesn't answer that initial email. And it's not advantageous for you to think, oh, it's because they're not interested. Again, if you're reaching out to a really popular school, it could take a few emails to really get their attention, because their inboxes are getting flooded. Until, I would say, if you send 12 plus emails and nothing, it's probably time to throw up the white flag. But I would definitely continue to reach out with updates around video. You're going to events, and give yourself some time. It can take a few emails for them to respond. Just because they don't respond to the first one, it doesn't mean they're not interested. Here's a good question. This is more of a recruiting question. Is there a thing as too many outlets? For example, my daughter has a Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, SportsRecruits profile where her videos are posted. No, I would argue that the more you're out there, the easier it'll be it will be for college coaches to find you. So, and especially with video is so important in the recruiting process. So definitely post that wherever you can to get on as many computer screens as you can. I do not believe that there is a thing as too many outlets. Here's another good question. What and when would be a good first message / email to send to college coaches? So this really depends on what division or what level you're looking to play at. But here at SportsRecruits, we always say the earlier the better. So somewhere around freshman year. That way, depending on the division you're looking to play at, they may have specific recruiting rules of when they can reach out to you. However, those emails don't go unnoticed. It's really important to put in that work earlier on. So when they can respond to you, they know who you are, they know you have expressed interest, and then they can have further conversations. So I would say to answer that when part, the earlier the better. However, every family is different of when they want it to start, but we say the earlier the better. What should you be saying to a college coach? The introduction message is an introduction, right? Saying who you are, we have also, let me preface, we have an example of an introduction message in our SportsRecruits knowledge base. It's a template that you can copy and personalize for yourself. But really what that message is for is to let the college coach know who you are and why you're interested in their program. The why you're interested in their program is really important, that you're personalizing that, because college coaches do know when you're sending a mass email, copying and pasting. So doesn't need to be a long paragraph. It can be 1 or 2 sentences, but just making sure that you're personalizing that for that specific program. Sorry, I'm just reading some ones that'll be. Oh, this is a good question. After the initial introduction email, should you add future emails to the same thread or start a new message each time? I encourage you to start a new message each time, depending on what the purpose of that message is, because the subject line is very important. So for a subject line, you want your first, last name, grad year, position, and then what you're speaking about. So if you're speaking about the same thing, yeah, you can write it in that thread as a reminder. But if you're talking about a whole new subject, I encourage you to start a new message and change that part of the subject line. For example, introduction, new video, 34 on ACT, that, like, what the message is about should be in the subject line. Can the college coaches see your categorization as fit, reach, or safety? No, they cannot see that. That is just for you. They can only see if you have simply favorited their program and their program alone. This is a good question. What should I do if I did bad on my SAT and I'm retaking it? What should I put on my SportsRecruits, and will that affect my recruiting process? If you did not receive the score you wanted, you can leave that blank. A lot of schools are turning to test optional as well with the admissions process. So it does depend on the schools on your list. Some schools, for example, the one at Franklin and Marshall, not sure if it's still the same, so don't quote me on this, but I didn't submit my SAT scores, but I did 2 writing samples. So, depending on the school, it may not really affect the admissions if it's not required, but college coaches know that you may are taking it a few times. So just leave it blank until you are comfortable with the score that you have. Here's a good question. Should you go ahead, excuse me, should you go ahead and post your grades on the site? So yes, we have a section on the SportsRecruits profile where you can upload your transcript. And what's really great about that is once you upload that, if a college coach were to click that link, you will get notified all in real time that a college coach is viewing your transcript, which is pretty cool and really means a lot if a college coach is looking at your grades and the classes you have taken. Okay, a few more here. So how frequently can you email updates? Is weekly okay? So as long as you have a reason to reach out to the coach, you should be emailing them. You shouldn't be emailing them just to say hi or asking them if they got your last email. Only if there's a purpose to your message. Hey coach, I just uploaded a new highlight reel from this past tournament. Love for you to take a look and I'd appreciate any feedback. Let's say the next week you're going to an event. Hey coach, I just wanted to reach out. I'm going to an event this upcoming weekend. Here's my schedule. I hope you get to see me play live. That's totally okay if those happen to be a week apart. But again, there should definitely just be a purpose as to why you're reaching out to that school. Okay. This is a good question. Will I receive notifications regardless of whether I have a subscription for SportsRecruits? So I'm taking that question means if you have a pro account. So even if you're a free user, if a coach views, like we don't lock the profiles. A college coach can view any athlete's profile. If you're a free user, you'll receive the notification. You just won't know which program viewed your profile. This is a good question and something that my team works on specifically. College coaching staff change, move around often. Do you maintain their contact info and registration on SportsRecruits, or do you guys maintain that at all? So we are constantly updating that list because that is a very true statement. Coaches move around frequently. We have coaches reaching out to us daily to get added to our system if they've moved programs. We do a huge lift quarterly going through our whole system. We have staff doing it weekly. If a coach were to leave, we are updating that. So that's something we are constantly doing because we are well aware that this happens constantly in the space. Also too, let's say a student athlete says, hey, I can't email this coach. Can you add it to your system? We do it right away. So that's something we are maintaining and constantly updating. Okay, let's have one more question here. Here's the question. I'm sure the sooner you start, the better in recruiting. Any advice for students who are late to recruiting and maybe just entering their junior year? So I know I said this earlier, but never take yourself out of the running with the school. If you are interested in a school and you're late to the process, definitely reach out to them, introduce yourself. I would wait like a week or so. If they don't answer, email again and see, where they are in their recruiting process. That's something we call a feet to fire message. Where are you in your recruiting process? Are you still looking for a shooting guard? I'd love to hop on the phone and learn more about your program. It's definitely not too late. Things happen, recruits maybe drop, they change around, anything can happen. So I never think it's too late, but it's definitely important to get the ball rolling and put in that effort and communicate with college coaches. No matter where you are in your process, it's not advantageous to sit back and let a college coach come to you. You should be reaching out to the college coach, letting them know who you are and why you're interested in their school. The same colleague I was talking to today, we were saying, unless you're the LeBron James of your sport, you need to be reaching out to these coaches to let them know who you are. So that's all the questions we have. Someone did write in the Q&A, can you go over the SportsRecruits packages and benefits of each? Definitely reach out to help@sportsrecruits.com and we can get you to talk to someone who's more equipped to go through that. That would take a long time to do that on this webinar. But guys, thanks so much for joining me tonight. This is such an important topic. Like I said, we post all our webinars on the landing page, and you will also get an email of the recording as well. I believe that was our last webinar of the month, but we have a lot of good ones coming up in August. So definitely take the time to sign up for those. And we also have our September 1st webinar, which is a really exciting date for 2025's going through the recruiting process, depending on your sport. So definitely sign up for that if you haven't already. Thanks, guys.